All right? A couple more. Go ahead.
Hi. I'm going to kind of be building up on a couple of previous questions that were asked. Earlier, you were questioned about your past, the organization you were associated with, and some of the violent acts that were committed during that time. And, you said that as an advocate of human rights, that as an opposer of the Vietnam War, that you felt this was the only way to get your point across.
I didn't think it was the only way. I thought it was...
Pardon me.
It was one way, yeah.
It was a way to get the point across. However, earlier in your formal speech, you also referred Martin Luther King Jr. several times. And we all know when you think of that name, you think of civil disobedience. You say that you love this country, but there are other ways to get your point across.
I agree.
So how does it make sense to fight violence with violence, given that you were protesting a war?
I really don't think it makes sense to fight violence with violence. But let me ask you this. Are you a dedicated pacifist yourself?
No.
Okay.
I'm not in the sense that
Yeah, let her have the mic.
I'm a realist.
Gotcha. Me too. The only reason I ask is because I have enormous respect for pacifists. Even though I'm not one, I have enormous respect for real pacifists. But let's make things complicated. When the Weather Underground film showed it at Sundance, I was interviewed later by a reporter from the LA Times, a young woman, and she said, "Why couldn't you choose the nonviolent path of Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela?" Doesn't cause any reaction in your mind. Nelson Mandela was like Martin Luther King in what way? In what way? Okay, Nelson Mandela is a saint. We all agree about that. We love the guy. We wouldn't want to say anything bad about him. But he wasn't in prison all those years for sitting at a lunch counter, right? That's not what he did. So the idea, again, I have great respect for true pacifism, great respect. And I think it's so much the preferred way, absolutely. But you said, I'm not a pacifist, I'm a realist. And I feel the same way. In other words, let's go back to the era of slavery. During the era of slavery, would you or I have been willing, as Harriet Tubman was, for example, to carry a pistol in our pocket to free human beings who were enslaved? Would we? I don't know. But I think we might have, and that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, because now we know that would have been maybe even heroic, maybe even wonderful. But maybe there were better ways to do it. On the other hand, slavery might never have ended also. Slavery ended in a violent upheaval, right? And yet the ending of slavery was important, had to happen. Nobody can predict the outcome of these things, but I tend to argue with you that you shouldn't fight violence with violence, and wherever possible you should find an alternative. Then the question, 2,000 people are being murdered a month by your government. How do you stop it? How do you stop it? And I'm not saying that my way was the right way. I never said that. And I never said it was the best way. What I said was it was something that people chose to raise a screaming alarm against an attempted, against mass murder, against a crime against humanity, against a war of terror against a population. Now, if you saw a war of terror today against a population, how would you stop it? What would you do?
Your friends were all coming home in a box.
I mean, that's the problem. And I'm not saying that I'm not trying to put you on the spot or put you down. I'm saying that it's not so simple that we say, for example, everyone in this room actually benefits to a certain extent from violence, from organized violence. You take a kid in Guatemala. Take a kid in Guatemala who's dying an unnecessary death from pneumonia because of our policy around, or take the million kids who died in Iraq during the boycott, the economic boycott of Iraq, to which Madeleine Albright said, necessary cost. I don't think it was a necessary cost. I don't think it was worth it. And maybe you don't either. But then we were sitting here quietly while that violence was being executed. We have 143 military bases around the world. Violence for export. What are we doing about that? We should stop it. That's my only argument. I'm not arguing with you about the other. One more.
Okay, just a quick point. I heard you saying up there to a student earlier that you are, equally as American as he is.
Sure, I am.
You
I
stomped
was
on the
born
American
here, I'm a
flag.
citizen. I'm sorry?
You stomp on the American flag, yet you say you're American.
Well,
And then real quick, another point. You say, you respect pacifists and things. Were the terrorists who attacked us on 9/11 pacifists?
Say it
And
again.
also, you
Say it
say,
again, I missed that one.
Were the terrorists who attacked us on 9/11 pacifists?
Absolutely not.
No.
They were war criminals. They were miserable, rotten, retrograde, fundamentalist.
So you don't like people who, orchestrate attacks against America and our government?
Absolutely not.
Oh, thank you.
Well, wait. Let's talk a minute about the flag.
The one you stomped on?
Yeah, the
Okay,
American flag. The American flag is a complicated symbol. It doesn't mean one thing. It means many things.
I'll agree with you.
It means many things, and one of the things it means when a bomb is coming at you, and this is what Martin Luther King said also. When an American-made bomb is dropping on your peasant village, America doesn't look like such a wonderful place. It looks weird to you. It looks violent to you. It looks aggressive to you. So invasion, occupation look remarkably the same, whether they're done by French colonialism or Britain in India or the United States in Vietnam or the United States in Iraq. It's still shocking to most Americans to hear that 75 to 80% of Iraqis don't want us there. How could they not want our beneficent presence there? And then you hear, how would you like it? Some of you didn't like George Bush, I assume, but some of you did, but some of you didn't. And those of you who didn't, what would you have imagined your reaction would have been if China had invaded the United States to overthrow the son of a bitch? You would have said, no way, I don't like them being here. And you might have taken a candy bar from one or two of them, but you wouldn't have said, this is terrific, I'm so happy you're here. No, invasion is the same the world over. So when I heard on the radio recently a young American soldier saying, gee, it's tough over here because I can't tell my friends from my enemies.